to Your Choice 2020 Primary Election coverage on HOMTV. I'm Brandy Yates, and joining me is Derrell Slaughter, 3rd District, Ingham County Commissioner, and Chairperson of the Law and Courts Committee to talk about the Emergency Telephone Service, 911 service, millage renewal question on the August 4th ballot. Derrell, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So one of the first questions I want to ask you is just a little bit about you and how you're involved with this ballot proposal.
Sure. Again, thank you for having me. As one of 14 commissioners, and actually the chair of the Law and Courts Committee, which our 911 dispatch is under the purview of the committee that I chair. Work to get the resolution approved through our committee and through the full board of commissioners to put this millage question on the ballot for August 4th. And so my role, I have an oversight role in terms of seeing how the 911 dispatch center works, and also in this role, obviously supporting millages for things that we believe are worthy causes, like our 911, our emergency telephone service millage. And so that's kind of my role as a commissioner. So.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Can you, this is a millage renewal, so voters have seen it on their ballot previously. Could you give us a little a recap kind of the history and what the ballot language is asking of voters?
Yeah, and so like you said, this is a millage renewal, and it's called the Emergency Telephone Service 911 or millage renewal or 911 millage. But the millage has been in place, from my understanding, since 1998. But voters have time and time again have approved this millage. From '96 to the last time it was renewed, 2016. And so the mills that we're asking folks to say, and again, it'll be the same 0.85 mills, which would be essentially 85 cents per $1,000 taxable value. My folks did a little bit of calculations. They did kind of an average on how much it might cost somebody who has, like maybe like a home that costs $100,000, and we're only able to tax $50,000 of that value of that house. And based off my folks, their calculation, about $42.50 per year, the millage, the funds that would come out of for this millage, and so. The money that comes from this millage funds a significant portion of the 911 operations, 55% of the funding that goes towards actual operations and capital improvement costs. The other funding comes from different other sources of funding from, folks might notice on their cell phone bill, there's a surcharge that they'll see that goes toward also funding the 911 millage. But we have some great folks that work there. They work tirelessly. They work 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. I actually personally spent New Year's Eve with them. This to kind of see what they're going through. And these folks are just the greatest. They're great public servants. They're passionate about the work. And so we want to make sure that they have all the tools in the toolbox to be able to do their job, which is to keep us all safe. When we have, concerns about some type of incident, a car accident, or break entry, or any type of situation, those are the folks who are on the front lines answering that call and routing folks to the appropriate people. And so. Very passionate. I'm obviously supporting this renewal of this millage, and I'm urging everybody else to do so as well.
Well, thank you. And you kind of touched upon it a little bit, but for people who are not familiar with the 911 dispatch center and what this funds, can you go into a little bit more detail about the operation and the services they provide?
Sure. Yeah. So the 911 dispatch center. So I'll kind of give like a breakdown of who's there. So we have 68 full-time employees. So these are folks who are either answering calls or management level folks. Provide services or answer calls for 15 law enforcement agencies, and 15 fire and emergency medical service agencies within Ingham County. Again, this is 24 hours a day, 65 days a year that folks, they should have confidence. They'll have confidence that when they call 911, that somebody will answer that and connect them to the right, or help facilitate the right response to whatever emergency that they're facing right there. So, but yeah, these are amazing folks. Again, they are the ones who answer all of our calls, when we have issues that are happening.
So basically, just to clarify a little bit,
Mhm.
all the 911 calls in the Lansing in Ingham County in this area goes through the dispatch center and then gets dispersed to the correct departments to
Right.
respond to the calls.
Right. And it is amazing how I spent some time in there just kind of seeing the boards and how they're set up so that, that East Lansing calls go to, East Lansing Police Department or, Ingham County Sheriff's. It's really a masterful operation. Those folks are amazing. So, but yeah, the services they provide is just making sure that they connect us to the appropriate responses when we're in need. So.
With this millage renewal question, it is the
Yep.
same amount of funding as previous millages. You mentioned having the right tools in the toolbox and capital improvement projects. Are there any things that are of greater need that they're hoping that this millage money, if it continues, will help fund for future projects or additional upgrades?
Yeah, we've been in the process well before I became a commissioner. I've been on the board for about a year and a half. But the funding would help towards our project that we're working on, upgrading our full 911 dispatch system. We've been working with a vendor for a number of years to improve the connectivity. I know there's some new equipment that's going to be purchased and that's going to be dispersed. That it can sync up with the new system that we're putting in place. And so, yeah, these funds would help to do that. This is to ensure that that we're keeping up with the latest technologies to make sure that these calls don't get dropped, and that our law enforcement and emergency and emergency and medical agencies can connect with dispatch and get the appropriate response to whatever situation that they're called upon. So yes, that's the major project that in my tenure as a commissioner is that the overhaul of our entire system has been occurring for a number of years.
So, and I always like to ask this when we do interviews about ballot proposals. So, if for some reason this does not pass, what kind of happens? What you said it's 50% funding for the 911 dispatch center. What would happen?
Yeah, and it's actually 55%.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep. So if it for some reason did not pass, my colleagues on the commission, we would have to come back to the drawing board and figure out, whether or not we want to put the proposal. We would have the option to, if we wanted to, believe we could put it back on. That's my understanding. But outside of that, I mean, it would just be a really huge loss to our community. Again, that's a sizable chunk of the budget of our 911 dispatch center. And again, these folks, I'm seeing them, they're being as efficient with their dollars as possible. I know there's not very little waste, if any. I mean, you can always find operational efficiencies, but to make up the type of money that would be lost if this millage were not approved would be devastating. And so I think it's a no-brainer to support this resolution, especially like I said, it's a renewal. We've passed. This has been approved. Thank you to the amazing voters of Ingham County who have approved this millage time in and time out again. And so I urge everybody to support it when they go to the voting booth or your absentee ballot, and vote yes on the renewal of this very important millage.
I have a couple more questions before we're done here.
Sure.
With the COVID pandemic, I mean, it's a little harder for people to campaign for candidates or proposals. So what kind of things, what outreach efforts, and what are you trying to do during this pandemic? And I'm sure 911 service has seen an influx in calls during this time as well. Can you address that?
Yeah, so so the first question in terms of, how we're getting the word out, and you're right, it does make it a bit more difficult to actually get the word out because, the way I operate, I like to do things in person. I like to go to events and I like to talk to people and educate them. But obviously that option is a bit hindered given what we're dealing with right now. And so, I envision, doing a number of things, definitely having conversations with people, word of mouth, calling folks, community leaders, constituents. I've already had a number of constituents have called me, just kind of giving my opinion, like, hey, Derrell, what's up with this millage, and I'll, debrief them, kind of do a similar spiel as I'm doing now, but just kind of let them know. So it's the combination of that, I've explored maybe doing a little town hall to talk about some of the things. That's something that I'm playing around with because doing virtual meetings is all the rage right now, and they have been effective in terms of how I've seen some do that. So definitely exploring ways that we can get the word out about this millage. But yeah, that's a challenge. But luckily, the millage again. Ingham County residents have voted to approve this time in and time again, and hopefully they'll continue to have that confidence in this millage and vote for it. And then I think you had a second question about the uptick in responses since COVID-19. Was that the other question?
Yeah, I was wondering if you have heard anything from the people who work there about the increased calls.
Yeah, and I actually have not heard that being the case. I would imagine it would have some effect, but I think overall, because our region, while recently we've seen an uptick in recent weeks because of some incidents like it happened at Harper's, and now we heard recently there's an outbreak that happened at the Riverfront Animal Clinic. But besides that, compared to other parts, compared to like a Wayne County or Detroit, our numbers are much lower compared to those much larger areas of the state. So, so I would say I have not been told or been notified that it's been additional strain on our folks at the 911 center, and I talk pretty regularly with the folks over there. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
I just want to give you this last opportunity to kind of talk to the voters, and what is the most important thing you want to tell them when they look at this millage renewal question on their ballots?
Yeah, so again, I want to say, thank you, Ingham County voters, for approving this millage time and time again. This money has been used well. Again, I interact with our folks. They are some of the most dedicated public servants that you would ever find in any department, any government. They are our front line. They're the ones who connect, us to folks that can help us in our emergency situation. And so, based off of that, I firmly believe that we want to do everything we can do to, as I said earlier, to give them all the tools in their toolbox, so that make sure they have adequate funding to be able to operate efficiently as possible. And so that's why I urge everybody to vote for this millage. I will. I know my colleagues all support it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So yes, vote yes on the emergency telephone service millage renewal.
Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for watching this emergency telephone service 911 service millage renewal question interview, which will be on the August 4th primary election ballot. I'm Brandy Yates, and you're watching Your Choice primary election coverage right here on HOMTV. Thank you.